and welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. On today's episode, I am sitting down with an amazing and legendary comedian. He's got a new book out now called Still Standing: From the Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra. I might have butchered that, but I'm not sure. But it's still standing. It's available on Amazon. You can also get it at Barnes & Noble. And I'm so excited to dive into this interview and talk with him because especially during these times, it is so important that we laugh and we remember the humor and the lightness in life, and we get back kind of to those roots. So I'm excited for this fun and kind of a walk down memory lane, so to say. So with that being said, I want to bring on my guest, comedian and actor, Tom Dreesen. How are you?
I'm fine, Madison. I'm fine. And you're in Colorado, so I know you're doing good.
Yes, I escaped New York, and so I've got space and trees and mountains and weed, but I don't smoke it, but it's here.
Well, that you just described Times Square, trees and,
right.
And rivers. And,
yeah. Exactly. So this is exciting. Congrats on the new book. So what can people expect when they pick up this book?
It's my journey. And basically, I guess I could, if I close my eyes, no matter where I've been in my life, no matter where I've performed at in all my career, the shows I've been on, the things that I've done, if I close my eyes, I see a little boy with a shoe shine box, and it's cold in the snow, and he's going from tavern to tavern, shining shoes in taverns, trying to get enough money to help feed his brothers and sisters. That was me. And on the jukebox of all those bars where I grew up on the south side of Chicago, there was a suburb called Harvey, Illinois. And Harvey was steel mills, factories. They made everything from clutch plates to crankshafts. Blue collar people, hardworking people who, there was a mantra: you only deserve in life what you work for. And so I had 8 brothers and sisters. We lived in a shack behind one of the factories. We had no bathtub and no shower, no hot water. It was a rat-infested, roach-infested shack. And I had holes in my shoes as big around as a coffee cup my whole childhood. But that's what I did. If I close my eyes, I see that little boy. And all the bars that he was in, Frank Sinatra was on the jukebox singing. And that's what the book is about. It's my journey. It's from a little boy on the south side of Chicago, Harvey, Illinois, shining shoes in all the bars, hearing Sinatra on the jukebox, to one day carrying his coffin out of a church in Beverly Hills, California. So it's that journey.
Wow.
With a lot of laughs and a lot of heartache. I mean, like most stand-up comedians, I mean, I was knocked down a lot in my life long before I went into comedy. I mean, my years in the service, I was knocked to my knees many times. So many times that I said that when I was on my knees, there was only one thing to do was pray, you know.
Yeah.
I kept getting back up again. So still standing is my journey, you know. I'm still standing. I'm a stand-up comedian. And I'm still standing. So that's what the book is about. But a lot of laughs, a lot of heartache, a lot of philosophy, and a lot of spirituality. And in the end, sort of like a miracle that happened to me again.
Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. But so before you got into comedy, you actually went into the military.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that journey a little bit and how it kind of helped shape.
Well, when I was 16 years old, you know, I dropped out of high school. I was embarrassed about the way I went to school with holes in my shoes and raggedy clothes. And I set pins in bowling alleys and, you know, and caddied in the summertime, did all that. When I was 16, I dropped out of high school. And the day I turned 70, I started running with a tough street gang. And, you know, that you do dumb things that I did, but getting in a lot of fights and things like that. And then the day I turned 17, I went into the Navy. And my probation officer didn't want me to go in the Navy. He tried to stop it from happening, but the recruiter talked him into it at the time. And he told the recruiter, you okay, I'll let him go in, but he won't stay in there very long. He's a punk, you know, and I proved him wrong.
Yeah.
I spent 4 years in the military, and I got a high school diploma from the military, and I began to read every book I could find on positive mental attitude. Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, A Guide to Confident Living, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, a book that really changed my life called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And so I began to read all these books and apply those sciences to my life, you know. But I still struggled. I came out of the service after 4 years in the military. I served aboard the USS Tarawa and the USS Essex, 2 aircraft carriers. but I also served in a Marine Corps unit called NEGDF, Naval Emergency Ground Defense Force.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in the service. I didn't have a childhood, so to speak. And then I came out and was married, had children, came right away. I had 3 children, and I was wandering aimlessly, going from one job to another, never feeling fulfilled, doing well at these jobs, but saying, I don't belong here. I would find myself in a bar with my buddies, 2 o'clock in the morning, drinking a lot of beer, saying, I don't belong here, but I didn't know where I belonged. And I started to pray. I'd say, God, this can't be what you want me to do. Please help me. What is it I'm supposed to be doing? This can't be it. So I wandered, but sure enough, it led me to, I joined a civic group called the JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce. They did Young Men of Action. Now they have young men and women in the JCs, but from 18 to 36, and they taught you leadership training programs. You worked on the problems of the community. Whatever problems were facing that community, you would work on a project to better that situation. And they taught you how to be a chair of a committee, how to serve on the committee, how to subcommittees, but how to attack problems. And also leadership training program in that. And one of the problems of our community were drugs. Our youth were using a lot of drugs, as is today.
Uh-huh.
And I wrote a drug education program teaching grade school children the ills of drug abuse with humor. It's a concept I had of making the kids laugh, playing records, making the kids laugh, and then planting the seeds of the ills of drug abuse. And they weren't teaching drug education in those days at a college level or a high school level, let alone at an elementary school level. So I was a groundbreaker there. But when I was praying, God, what am I supposed to be doing? I was proposing that project to the JCs one night for it to be run as a JC project. I had to work with me on it was a young white kid named John DeBoer. And the JCs approved it, but a new kid had joined the chapter that night. He had come from Norfolk State College. E.I. DuPont recruited him out of Norfolk State College into Chicago. And he joined the JCs. He came up to me and said, I want to work with you on that project. I said, gee, thank you, but I already got a guy.
Okay.
As fate would have it, the next day, my friend John DeBoer called me and said, gee, I got a new job. I can't help you, Tommy. I said, gee, what was that black guy's name? Oh, yeah, Tim Reed. So Tim, called him. We rehearsed it. We went into the classrooms. The moment we hit that classroom, I realized what a blessing he was, because the children were black and white. They were all integrated schools. Now, a young black guy and a young white guy coming in from the classroom, having fun with one another, joking off of one another, getting the kids laugh, playing records, getting their attention, and then planting the seeds. The program became #1 in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries. JCs, through their publications, use it as a model program on how to teach drug education at an elementary school level. And one day, leaving the classroom, a little 8th grade girl said, you guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team. And the thought of a black and white comedy team intrigued us, and we became America's first black and white comedy team. And history shows we were the last. We did it for 6 years. There were no comedy clubs in those days, Madison. So we had to work all black clubs in the North and the South, all white clubs in the North and the South, nightclubs.
Wow.
And so we'd be places where I was the only white guy within 4 or 5 miles, and we were places where Tim was the only black guy. So, and then in those days, in the late 60s and early 70s, the Vietnam War was raging. Students were protesting the war. African Americans were rioting in every major city. Riots, including my own neighborhood, Harvey, Illinois, was one of the largest riots in the country, and all of that stuff. And in the middle of it all, Tim and I were just trying to make America laugh. And we did 11 prisons in 1 year. We did 11 prisons. We did every college, every high school, wherever there was racial tension, we went there and tried to make the kids stop. We didn't preach. They just saw a black guy and a white guy on stage having a lot of fun together. And so we stayed together 6 years. The team broke up. We wrote a book a while back called Tim and Tom, an American Comedy in Black and White. And now people are talking about it becoming a series, a 6 one-hour series of 2 young guys playing Tim and I, of what it was like touring the nation before comedy clubs, and America was not ready for us, but we were ready for America. And they tried to did everything they could to break up the team. They never broke up our friendship. We're the best of friends to this day,
Oh my God. Have you guys thought about performing together again, like as a special?
Everybody asks that question. I say, no, we probably couldn't do I'll tell you, the routines we did, we challenged them. We'd be run out of town on the rail. The politically correct police would destroy us today.
Yeah.
But, because again, that's, when you politically correct police can kiss my, what,
Yes.
First of all, we have the First Amendment. We can say whatever we want to say. That's what men and women died for. So we have that right. Now, you don't have to listen to us. You can shut us off. You can turn away, or you can debate us, or you can disagree with us, but you can't stop us. Now, when you say to a comedian, and you know you're a comedian, when you say to a comedian, I want you to go on stage, Madison, but don't say this, and don't say that, and don't say this. Watch what I'm doing. Don't say that. Don't say this. You just put Madison in a box, and you can't put a comedian in a box. There's only one rule in comedy: be funny. That's the only rule.
Yep.
Be funny.
So what do you think about this whole PC culture? Because you've been a comic for 50 years, so you really have seen it change. Have you had to really adjust to kind of change with the times, or have you kind of been able to stay your authentic self?
Well, I've been doing it 50 years. I have an album in front of an all-black audience called That White Boy Is Crazy. Richard Pryor wanted me to call it That Honky's Crazy because he had that N-Word's Crazy album. But I said to him, no black guy. I grew up in an all-black neighborhood. I played basketball on an all-black basketball team. I played football on an all-black football team. So I grew up around the brothers, and they never call me honky. They always call me white boy, affectionately. They say, hey, white boy, come here, white boy. And tell him, when we played that game, I scored 2 touchdowns at night. White boy, white boy was there. I tell everybody I was 12 years old when I found out my name wasn't white boy,
Yeah.
But the change, see, I've always worked, I've done corporate dates, I've done hundreds of television shows, 61 appearances on The Tonight Show. So I was always coming up with new material. So in those days, television was this big, ABC, NBC, CBS. So you couldn't work blue. When cable came along, you could work as dirty as you want,
Mm-hmm.
But my day, we're in show business, that's 2 words, show and business. So how was I going to get on The Tonight Show? One appearance on The Tonight Show would change your life. In 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh yeah, you ever been on Johnny Carson? And if you hadn't been on Johnny Carson, in the eyes of America, you weren't a comedian. You might want to be one. You might going to be one, but you weren't one now. One appearance on The Tonight Show, Freddie Prinze got a sitcom the next day. I did one appearance on The Tonight Show. CBS signed me to a development deal the following day. I was on my rear end, drawing unemployment with a wife and 3 kids. And the next day, my whole life changed. I never stopped working from that day. But because the business was, you had the right material. In order to get on The Tonight Show, you had the right material that could make grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids laugh. So you had to write that kind of material. There wasn't cable in those days. So once I did that Tonight Show, Sammy Davis Jr. took me on the road, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Natalie Cole, Tony Orlando and Dawn, James Darren, Mac Davis, Sammy Davis Jr. Everybody wanted me because I could get their audience up and not offend anybody. They had family audiences. Now comes to how much it's changed is when cable came along, you could work as blue as you want. Now, I'm not a prude. I'm a street guy. I don't have a degree from academia. I got a doctorate from the streets. I can do a stag roast with the best of them. But there was no money in that, so that's the dramatic change. Watch the Dean Martin roast and then watch those roasts today from the Friars Club. Unbelievable, the language. And again, you're not going to shock me,
Right.
But the point is, that's how dramatically it's changed is the language. And amidst all of that, you can swear as much as you want, but politically correct, please don't say this about that and don't say that. What they don't understand, we're a melting pot. This United States, we've got Jewish comedians and Italian comedians and Irish comedians, and we've got black comedians, and we got women stand up, we got lesbians, we got gay guys. We're from all cultures, and the way that we can reach everybody is through humor.
Yes.
So you poke fun at me of my ethnicity, and I can have fun with that. There's like I say, I'm Irish Italian. You can, if somebody called me a dago, you don't hurt my feelings. You might hurt some. But if they say, hey, dago, I'd laugh. I'd say, yeah, big deal. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. But if you said, hey, dago, now I know the difference in your inflection.
Yeah, that's true.
But see what comedians do. They get on stage, and there's a Jewish comedian on stage, and I'm cracking up, and he's talking about his mom, his dad, and this Jewish way of life. Now, I'm not Jewish, but my mom and dad did things just like that. So I realized through humor, we have a lot in common. Yeah. This female gets up on stage, and I'm talking about my relationships with women, and women this and women that, and then she gets and her the men, and I go, oh, I never thought of that. Gee, next time I date a girl, I'm going to be careful because Madison just opened my eyes to
Yeah.
you. You know what I'm saying? That's what comedy does. It brings us all together, or should, you know.
You were very close with Frank Sinatra and you started touring with him. How did that all come about?
It came about from being glib at the right time. I'm touring with different artists, like I told you, Sammy, everybody. I was touring with Smokey Robinson, and we were touring all around the country, and we were working at Lake Tahoe at Caesars. And Frank Sinatra was appearing next door at Harrah's. And I had worked Harrah's many times. And so one night I was going to go see the show. As fate again would have it, I could have went any night in the week that I was there.
Yeah.
Somehow I chose one night. I said, I'll do this night. And I called the Harrah's and I said, I'll be there. And the maitre d' knew me. I said, I'm going to come off stage and bolt right over because I didn't want to miss Frank Sinatra's opening. I had seen him a couple of times. Frank Sinatra created more excitement walking to the microphone than most people would whole act. When he walked out on that stage, the room went crazy. You know, his fans just, they loved, and the electricity in the room before he even sang a note. You know, so I didn't want to miss that opening. I come off stage, I didn't even change out of my stage clothes, and I run over to Harrah's a couple doors away, and I'm running to the showroom in a hurry, and the vice president of Harrah's Hotel, a man named Holmes Hendrickson, real powerful guy in those days, he was standing up in front of the showroom with a big heavyset guy with a cigar, and he saw me, and I'm running into him. He said, Tommy, come here. And I reluctantly went over because I didn't want to miss the opening. He said, Tommy, this is Mickey Rudin. I recognized the name. He was Frank Sinatra's lawyer, powerful guy too in our business. And so he said, Mickey, this is Tom Dreesen, and I think Tom would make a great opening act for Frank Sinatra. And the lawyer got a pained expression on his face like he had heard this a million times, and he winked at the vice president, but I caught the wink. He said, hey, kid, if I gave you a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000? I said, Mr. Rudin, put it this way. If you gave me a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000? He said, I like this kid. He started laughing.
Yeah.
So a week later, I got a call. Would I like to work with Frank in Atlantic City at the Golden Nugget? And I said, yeah. I figure I'll work with him 1 week. I'll try to get a picture taken with him. I'll hang it in every bar in Chicago, and I'm home. But the second night I was with him, he and his wife, Barbara, took me out to dinner. I can remember like it was yesterday. In the middle of dinner, he set his knife and his fork down. He said, I like your material and I like your style. I'd like you to do a few other dates with me if you're interested. And I didn't say, let me check my calendar, you know. And it turned into 14 years, 45, 50 cities a year, and huge arenas, 20,000 seat arenas, 40,000 people in Hawaii. And
Gosh.
greatest friendship. And I later was, at first he was the boss of the tour. Then he was like a friend. Then at the end, he was like a father to me. And I ended up being a pallbearer, and I spoke at his funeral too. And I miss him every day of my life. He was an incredible human being.
So how old were you when you met Frank?
I was 9. No,
Right.
no, I was in my 30s, you know.
Oh my God. So when did he die?
1998, May
Okay.
14th, 1998.
Wow.
You know, I was a lot younger, but he wanted a younger comedian. He had been using some older comedians. He wanted somebody who could keep coming up with new material because he appeared in the same cities every year.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd keep going back to the same cities. And he wanted somebody who could keep changing material. And I'd been on the Tonight Show so many times, and all the other shows. And I also was always writing new material, like, you know, what we do. If I'm come off the road tomorrow, I would go to the Laugh Factory in Hollywood with new ideas and get up on stage and work in some new material. So I was always doing that. And so that's what he wanted. He wanted that kind of a comedian. And one also that wouldn't offend his audience, that wouldn't work what we call blue. You know?
Yeah. So what were some of your favorite stories of being on the road with him?
There's so many, and by the way, they're all in the book, you know, that you can read. But I mean, you know, it just the lessons that he taught me. First of all, I can't describe to you what it's like opening for Frank Sinatra. I mean, when you know, you'd be in an arena, 20,000 seat arena, and it's moments before you're going on. Here, Madison, I'll give you the scenario.
Okay.
Say you're going to do that. I'll say, Madison, you're going on in 5 minutes. Madison, there's 20,000 people out there in the arena, in the round. They're behind you. They're on your side. They're all around you. You've got a big, flat, empty stage. The orchestra might be in the pit, or even if they're in the stage, it'd be in a pit behind you. But all around you are the people, 20,000 people. Say, Madison, I want you to go out there, and there's 20,000 people out there. And for the next 45 minutes, I want you to hold their attention, Madison. Oh, one more thing, Madison. I want you to hold their attention, but I want you to make them laugh for the next 45 minutes. Oh, one more thing, Madison. I want you to hold their attention, make them laugh, but I want you to make them laugh when you want them to laugh. I want you to pull the strings on the emotions of 20,000 people. No props, no tricks, no charts, no special arrangement, no orchestra, just you and 20,000 people. And one more thing, Madison, not one of them came to see you.
Oh my gosh. Right. So the adrenaline must have been just crazy.
Well, that's your assignment every night. I mean, and you know, so you got to go out there and you got to make this work because you got to set them up for him, you know.
Yeah.
And they came to see him, you know. And the thing is, the arena, and I give this lesson to new comedians if you ever have to do this, but and hopefully you won't have to this situation, but the arena, they'd all be filing in, and people would be seated, and still maybe a couple thousand looking for their seats. The arena would go dark. And they go, ooh, and the orchestra would say, bum, ba, da, dum, ba. And people, oh. And they say, ladies and gentlemen, the comedy star of our show, Tom Dreesen. People, oh. They thought Frank was going to. Now, I'd walk up on stage, and I'd say, and watch the trick of this. 20,000 people, I got to bring them in here. I'm not going to start with my A material. I'm not going to try to hit them with the, you know. I'd walk on stage, I'd say, how many out there, I want you to applaud. How many of you out there thought Frank Sinatra was coming out? Applaud. And they'd applaud. I'd say, I know just how you feel. I'm a little bit disappointed myself. Okay, the first joke is on me. And I'd say, how many of you out there are in this arena your very first time? Applaud. And they'd applaud. I'd say, how many of you out there are seeing Frank Sinatra live your very first time? Applaud. And they'd applaud. See, I talk, you react. I talk, you react. I'm bringing him here. I'm bringing him from all over here. I say, how many of them applaud? Frank Sinatra first time, applaud. I'd say, third thing I'd say, how many out there aren't wearing any underwear? Applaud. They applaud, ha, ha, ha. Now, I talk, you react. I didn't say raise your hand. I said applaud. You know, I'm bringing him here. And then my first couple of jokes, now I've got them now focused on me. Now my first couple of jokes would be about their area. If I was in Dayton, Ohio, Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, New York City, wherever I was, Chicago, opening for Frank. So I'd do a couple local jokes. Now I localized, and now I can go into my material because I brought him in. But if you went out there first and boom, 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 it's not going to happen. You got to bring them in. You got to bring that focus here.
Exactly.
So that I learned, you know.
Wow. And so what's your favorite story from being on the road with him? There had to have been something that happened that just was
there are so many stories on the road. I mean, we did so many things. And I do a one-man show called The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh. But I used to call it an evening of laughter and memories of Sinatra. And in it, I would tell funny stories and I would show video of us together and stuff like that, you know. Well, you know, so many things, I got video. There's so many stories I could tell you. Most of all, my favorite stories were as he got older and he was more like a father to me. Frank Sinatra never went to bed till the sun came up, ever, whether we were on the road or off the road. He was nocturnal.
Wow.
So when we were on the road, we'd be doing one-nighters all over the country. Then we'd go to Vegas, work the Desert Inn, and he'd stay up till dawn. And he wants you to hang with him, you know, which is okay for about 10 years. And then I got a little, I did 14 years. Whoa. But, you know, he toward the end of his life, he would come and get me when I'd go down and stay at his compound. He had a compound in Rancho Mirage, a huge, you know, enclosed compound. And on the outer perimeters, I mean, there was a swimming pool, tennis courts, the main house, his house. But on the outer perimeters were bungalows called New York, New York, Strangers in the Night, Tender Trap My Way, named after his songs. And I would stay in the bungalows. He'd come and get me sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and say, Tommy, let's take a ride. And I'd get in the car and drive around the desert with him till dawn. And he would open up to me and tell me stories of his childhood and personal things like that. One particular night, one of my favorite stories, one particular night, he told me a real personal story. And afterward, he said, I shouldn't have told you that. And I said, well, it won't go any further than this car. He said, that's okay. I shouldn't have told you that. So we're riding around in the desert till the wee small hours of the morning, pun intended, you know, and he told me something personal. And then he said, afterward, I should not have told you that. I said, that's okay. He said, well, I shouldn't have told you that. And I said, well, it's not going to go any further than this car.
Yeah.
Did I know, but I shouldn't have told you. And I said, well, it's not like we're strangers, we're friends, you know. And I'm driving the car and I looked at him and I said, Strangers in the Night. And he said, oh my God, if you're going to sing that song, get in tune, will you? He goes, strangers in the night. I said, exchanging glances. He said, wandering in the night. I said, what were the chances? And we were singing that song. Now, when we pull in the compound, pulling this, the sun's coming up. He said, good night, Tommy. He always hit me on the cheek. He said, good night, Tommy. And he'd sock me in the jaw. He'd say, love you, pal. He always hit me a little sock. He'd say, love you, pal. And I went back to my bungalow, and I'm thinking, if I went back to my own neighborhood, and I told all the guys, I was just riding around with Frank, and we were singing Strangers in the Night, they'd say, get the hell out of here with that BS. But it happened. And it's a moment I'll never forget. I mean, many other things that he did that taught me lessons. Coming out of the Waldorf Astoria one night on our way to do a gig, there was a woman hiding in the doorway. We went out the back way because if we went out the front, Frank would get mobbed. Going out the back way, the doorman told me that she had been hiding in the doorway for like 5 hours. And as the security was rushing us to the limousine, she started screaming, Mr. Sinatra, please, Mr. Sinatra, please. And security was holding her back. Frank walked back, came out of the limo, walked back. I said, what is it? She said, my husband is home sick, very sick. If he could get an autograph from you, it would mean the world to him. And Frank said, sure. And he signed me the autograph. And she said, oh, what beautiful cufflinks. They were a couple $1,000 cufflinks, very, very expensive cufflinks that he had. She said, what beautiful cufflinks. He said, thank you. And he took the cufflinks off after the autograph. He said, give these to your husband. She said, oh, no. She said, I don't want them. I just was admiring. He said, no, I want your husband to have them. Now, we get in the limo, and I said to him, that was really nice, but why did you do that, Frank? He said, Tommy, if you possess something that you can't give away, then you don't possess it. It possesses you.
Whoa.
And I never forgot that. And a while after, he said, it's okay if somebody said, gee, I love your car, your Mercedes-Benz or something, and you don't give it to them. That's okay. But when you're alone in the bathroom, shaving, and you're looking at that guy in the mirror, you got to admit to that guy that car owns you because you can't give it away. And this is the kind of lessons he told me. He told me, he said, Aristotle Onassis had billions of dollars, mansions, private jets, yachts. The second he died, it all transferred.
Yeah.
So you don't own it. You're only using it. And no one knew that better than him. You know, Frank Sinatra, you had to be very careful if you're his friend. You couldn't say, gee, what a beautiful watch. He'd take it off and give it to you. You couldn't say, what a beautiful painting. He'd take it off the wall and give it to you. His friends had to be very, very careful about that, you know, because he said, you know, that nothing we own is ours. We're just using it, you know.
I mean, that is so well said, and like such kind of a good thing to live by, because I think people do get caught up in the materialistic things that they have, and, you know, that kind of dictates their life and how they operate when we can't take it with us, right?
Well, you know, as I told you, I read hundreds of books on the powers of the mind. I give motivation speeches now around the country to corporations and the college students and stuff on 4 subjects: perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor. And I elaborate on those 4 subjects. And sometimes I have visuals and stuff like that. I do it for comedians around the country. I do a motivation talk to comedians called The Joy of Stand-Up Comedy and How to Get There.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, and then I'm going to get back to the point I was getting at about the spirit and the ego. But most stand-up comedians I met in my life, this is my humble opinion, 85% of all stand-up comedians are insecure, neurotic, sometimes psychotic, loved, starved wrecks. And the other 50% are gifted, confident people who say, I know how to write a joke and I know how to tell one. You know, I like to think I'm on the latter, but never trust somebody that tells you they're sane, you know.
Yeah, right, that's true.
But if you're an insecure, neurotic, love-starved wreck, when you're poor and unknown, when you're rich and famous, it doesn't get better, you know, it gets worse. Because you thought rich and famous was going to take all that angst away. And when it doesn't, now you've got to go inside. The inner journey is far more exciting than the outer journey. So we're driven by 2 forces. I remember when I was a kid, I used to read about yin and yang, the yin and yang. And I didn't quite understand what's the yin and yang. But it dawned on me later on through a lot of reading that we're ego and we're spirit. Call it what you want, your center, your Holy Spirit, whatever you want. Okay. But when you're born, you're not born ego, you're born pure spirit. You don't know if you're boy or girl, black or white, rich or poor, Jew or Gentile. You don't know what you just are a spirit that loves everything that loves you, and you gravitate to things that love you. It's your spirit taking us to one another. Well-intentioned adults, sometimes misinformed, start programming our computer. Little boys do this, little girls do that. Mm-hmm. We Catholics do this, we Protestants do that, whatever. And pretty soon you start to develop an image of yourself based upon their information. Thus the ego is formed. And
Yeah.
now the rest of your life, it's your ego and your spirit, your yin and your yang. You know, you're driving down the street, a guy pulls in front of you, slam on the brakes, and you're cursing, you rotten son of a, you know, and you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's my ego. That's my ego. That's not my spirit. My spirit says, oh, am I glad no one got hurt. Have a good day. Go on your way. So you either you're spirit driven or you're ego driven. And most people in our business are ego driven. Fame, fortune, cars, riches, keep amassing. The more we get, the more, you know, the more material things we get.
Oh, yeah.
That means we're okay, right? The ego cannot never get enough. It has an insatiable appetite. It can never get enough fame, fortune, money, power. It will eventually drive you to failure because it can't get enough. The spirit, conversely, is like the song of the 70s. All I need is the air that I breathe and to love you.
I love that song.
That's all your spirit needs. All I need is your, so we're, you know, I fight back and forth with my ego and my spirit, my ego and my spirit. I have to constantly try to be spirit driven, but like anybody else, I have an ego and I have to keep it in bay if I can, you know.
So why do you think there's so many egomaniacs in Hollywood?
Well, first of all, they're
That's
driven.
what business is, right?
But that's what they think. They think all that fame and fortune is going to make them somebody, something special, and that then all of their pain will go away. You know, I don't mean everybody's like that in Hollywood, but most of them are prima donna spoiled rats.
Right.
Prima donna spoiled rats who are pampered because you got on a sitcom. You know, one day you were just Sally Snodgrass or Billy Johnson, and then you got on a sitcom for 2 weeks, and now you're roll out the red carpet. And I don't want the black limousine, I want the white limousine. And, you know, I've seen it. They bore. I was never part of the Hollywood crowd. I was fortunate that when I went from the streets almost, from the Comedy Store to the Tonight Show to Sammy Davis, I was touring with these legends who were really, most of them were comfortable in their own skin. When I stayed at Frank Sinatra's house, his house guests were Gregory Peck, Kirk Douglas, Clint Eastwood, Robert Wagner, Joe St. John, Jack Lemmon. I played poker with him every Sunday. They were more interested in you. They'd say, so you're a stand-up comedian. Tell me about that, Tommy. That's so interesting. These are people I saw in the movies when I was a kid, but they were so secure in their own skin that they, you know, in their own talent, that they were driven, and they weren't coke snorting, you know, maniacs, you know. Anyhow, that's my thing about Hollywood, you know.
Wow. So did you ever so you did a bunch of late night show appearances. So how was it? What year were you first on Johnny Carson?
I did my first Tonight Show, December 1975.
Okay.
And then I did 61 appearances after that. Once I did that Tonight Show, a whole new world opened up. I was doing Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson, Midnight Special, Rock Concert, Soul Train, American Bandstand. I'm the only white comedian ever to do Soul Train.
Wow.
I did an album in front of an all-black audience called That White Boy Is Crazy. And yeah, so I was on my way after that first Tonight Show. And you know, when I first went to Las Vegas, and you look down that strip, every single hotel had singer, comic, singer, comic on this side and this side for almost a mile. I thought, I'm going to work forever here. How this is going to, I never knew that Vegas would change the way that it did, you know.
Yeah.
But there were nightclubs in those days. There were no comedy clubs, you know, and then overnight there were 550 comedy clubs.
What year was the first comedy club?
Probably in the late 60s, early 70s. Bud Friedman opened up the Improvisation, but he didn't open it as a comedy room. That happened by accident. He went around to all the theaters and he passed out handbills. Actors, after the show's over, come over there and you can get half off on drinks and sandwiches, because he wanted show business people to hang out there.
Yeah.
One night, a singer, there was a piano in there in the back, and one night one of the singers from a play got up and sang the song from the play. And then another night, another singer got up. And then one guy got up one night and did a monologue in there. And pretty soon the word got around the city, hey, there's happening there at the Improvisation. And pretty soon it got so much that another comedian came in, and then pretty soon Bud had almost scheduled them. He put singer, comedian, singer, comedian. That was the beginning of it. And then Mitzi Shore on the West Coast opened up the Comedy Store. Her husband really opened it first, Sammy Shore, and then she won it in a divorce, you know. And then the comedy boom in the late 70s. Comedy was the rock and roll of the 70s.
Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you, Madison, at the Comedy Store, every night somebody was getting discovered. All those shows I just mentioned sent their talent coordinators into the Comedy Store, all of them. Plus casting people from sitcoms, and people from Canada. There were TV shows up in Canada, brought their talent coordinators down. Every night, some comedian was coming off stage. I just got Merv Griffin. I just got Mike Douglas. I just got Dinah Shore. I'm going on The Tonight Show. They want me up in Canada. Every night, somebody was excitement. And I was working every night with unknown comedians we were all new. David Letterman, Jay Leno, Robin Williams, Gallagher, Elaine Boozler, Michael Keaton.
Wow.
The girl waiting tables was Deborah Winger. It was exciting, really exciting.
So, I mean, that's just so amazing. So the industry has changed so much now. It's kind of like, how they're not really in the clubs that much, these talent.
Well, there was a path to stardom.
Uh-huh.
Because I think I said to you earlier, wherever you went in 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh, yeah, you ever been on Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
If you've ever been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you weren't a comedian. You might want to be one. You might going to be one, but you weren't one now. One appearance on that show, Freddie Prinze got a sitcom the next day. I did one appearance. I was in the unemployment light with a wife and 3 kids one day, broke on my rear end. And the next day after I did my Tonight Show, CBS signed me to a development deal. A guy named Lee Curlin saw me on the show in New York. I was doing it out here in Hollywood, but he signed me to a development deal. They gave me a check for $10,000 back in those days. And $850 a month for a year to hold me, CBS. That meant my rent, my groceries, everything was paid. For the first time in my years in comedy, I could concentrate on writing and worry about my children not eating or not having shoes. It was that one appearance, and I never stopped working since that time. As I told you, I did 61 appearances on The Tonight Show. So I never stopped working from that first night.
And so where were you getting all your material? What was your main source of inspiration?
Everything. When you're at that point, everything is material. When you're writing a joke, there's 2 rules to writing a joke. First of all, number 1, comedy is 9/10 surprise. The audience laughs because they didn't think you were going to say that or do that physically. So setup line has to hide the punchline. So you take them down the path of truth and drop the bottom out on them. And the other rule is there are no victimless jokes. Who's the victim in a joke? Is it me? Is it society? My daughter's dating a punk rocker. Whatever. Somebody's got to be the victim in this joke. I mean, that's simplifying it, but so I was in a constant state of writing new material. I looked at everything as material. When I do the Tonight Show, and when I got done and the show was over, as I was going to the parking lot, I was thinking of another Tonight Show. I tried to have 2 or 3 ahead of my schedule. But something I learned, that necessity is the mother of invention. So when I got carte blanche on the Tonight Show, and I could just call them and say, I'm available. I'd say, I'm available in 3 weeks. They'd say, okay, Tommy, you're on March 18th or whatever.
Wow.
I didn't have the first joke written. Now I'm in a state of panic. Now I go to the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, the Improv. I got that tape recorder every night, and I'd come up with that piece of material. Necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes you have to set a deadline.
Yes.
Where your butt's on the line, so.
No, that's totally true. Did you have any stories like on the Tonight Show where you just felt like you failed?
There were nights I had hotter crowds in other nights. There were some nights I walked up and I thought, wow, I was on cloud 9. There were nights where you worked, some nights I used to tell comedians all the time, and I'll tell you, if you ever have to audition or showcase, look for the 3 days where there's a full moon. There were times earlier when I was an earlier comedian. I'll tell you this, earlier comedian, I'd say, you know this, Madison. Some nights you go, damn, they were hot tonight. They just were hot. I began to notice that there were times I was doing well, doing consistently, but then there were some nights where, wow. And I began to notice it was always around the full moon. So I tried to schedule my Tonight Shows around the full moon. I believe, look, and then people will argue with me, but if the moon can affect the tide, and it can, and we know that.
Yes.
Your brain is 85% water. There's so much water that why couldn't it affect your mood? A lot of people do not like drinkers on full moons because they say they get crazy. But I think I've noticed when there's a full moon, that audience is up more. I just noticed that to my career. And I tell young comedians, if you're going to showcase for somebody, try to do it around the 3 days when there's that full moon, because I just believe the audience is far more up in those days. But on the Tonight Show, you know, there were nights that Johnny's monologue went into the tank, and then you'd go out there and you did good. But when you'd sit down and you'd go to commercial break, you said, you know, shit crowd, right? I said, yeah. Because some nights they're hot and some nights they're not. But for the most part, they were pretty good audiences, you know.
Yeah. And so what about your acting career? Can you tell us about that too?
I studied acting in Chicago, and I studied acting out here. And you know, you can, there, you know, most comedians can do a dramatic role. You know, Groucho Marx once said, to give a comedian a dramatic role is like giving him a day at the beach, because it's in, you know, we can do drama. Comedy's hard, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stories about that. I'm jumping one subject to another, but I'll tell you about acting. I am an actor, but I'm a stand-up comedian first, last, and always. I love stand-up comedy. I don't love acting for this reason. Stand-up comedy, if I'm working in Vegas, you know, during the day, whatever I'm doing, play golf, have some fun, maybe write some material, whatever. But, you know, take a nap, and then it's showtime. I go downstairs, you know, at 7:30, I get up, I slowly walk to my dressing room. Showtime's 8 o'clock. When I get to my dressing room, you know, around 7:45, you know, I start getting dressed for the show. 8 o'clock, I go on stage. 8:30, I'm done, or 9, or whatever, if I'm headlining or if I'm opening. But I'm done. That's it, you know. Maybe 2 shows, you're done. Acting, you get there, you get there at 5:30 in the morning, you're in your trailer, you're going over your lines, and they do your scene at 5 o'clock that night.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and you've gone over your lines so much, it's boring. The only time I like, Clint Eastwood's a good buddy of mine, and I did a film with him, or I did it called Trouble with the Curve. Clint cuts the fat out of it. He brings the actors down when it's time, and he cuts the fat. He doesn't do cut. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. He knows when he's got it. He's a good director. So, you know, I as much as I like acting, I don't love it. You know.
Yeah. So, do you still get stage fright at all?
No, I've learned to.
Okay.
Like any other young comedian, when I was new, I did. You know, if I had to do a show on Friday, on Monday, I was already sweating it.
Right.
But because I read so many books on the power of your subconscious mind and everything, and I teach this to comedians all the time, most people, when they think about going on stage or public speaking, they see themselves failing. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between truth or fiction. It only knows what you program into it. So they'll see them and see, what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? And then their hands start to sweat, their heart starts to pound, because your subconscious mind doesn't know that this isn't happening. So I learned to cancel that. And I would see myself on stage having fun, really enjoying what I'm doing, having a lot of fun, and the audience enjoying it too. You know, and that's what I teach comedians. Have fun, and the audience will have fun. Even when it's not working, have fun. Have fun with your talk. If it's not working, have fun with the fact that it's not working.
Yeah.
You know? But it's a conversation, not a presentation. So, Kate, I say it's a conversation, not a presentation. Is it your act? You damn right it's your act. It's your job to make it look like it's not an act.
Yeah.
That it's just happening new. It's like you and I are married. I say, Madison, I'm cooking dinner. There's 20 people out there in our living room, and they're waiting for dinner. I haven't got Madison. Do me a favor. Go tell them some of them stories about when you were growing up. Tell them about the time when you lived in New York. Until I get dinner ready. Now you walk out into that living room and say, you know what, dinner's gonna be ready in a few minutes. But let me tell you what happened to me when I was in New York one time. Okay, that's the way you walk out onto a stage. I tell all the comedians, it's our house, not their house.
Exactly.
We always think of it as, oh my God, I'm entering their territory. I've never been in Dubuque, Iowa, or Des Moines, Iowa. I've never been there. It's like their house. BS. It's our house. If they could do what we do, they'd be up here. They can't. That's why they're out there. So whenever you walk out on stage every night, they're in our house. And that's the way you approach it in your mind. So, and then I always say, have fun, and the audience will have fun. Have fun. I don't care what you're feeling inside. I don't care what's happening that day, your heartaches and stuff. When you walk out on that stage, you owe it to them to have fun. They came to have fun, you know. So have fun, and the audience will have fun. I say, even if it isn't working, have fun the fact that it's not working. I said, I thought you'd like that one. You know, I wrote that. I was convinced that you would laugh, but you're smarter than me. You know that joke wasn't that good. Or whatever it is. Have some fun. Have some fun. And see, they want you to succeed. That's why they came. They didn't come there to see you bomb. They came for laughs too. So if you're having fun, they're going to have fun.
Right. No, that's great advice. And so you talk about this power of the mind. Do you think that those books that you read early in your career really kind of shaped what you became, which was
No question.
a legend?
Yeah, let me tell you this. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Nothing can become a reality unless it's thought first. You see this, you see everything you see in front of you was a thought before it became a reality. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can become a reality unless it's thought first. When I was sleeping in an abandoned car, hitchhiking to the Comedy Store every night, begging to work for free, begging every night to work for free. I wanted to get to the Tonight Show and I couldn't even get on at the Comedy Store. Every night when I was sleeping in that car, I would envision Johnny Carson talking to me saying, "You're a funny guy, Tom Dreesen. You're a funny guy." I would see it, I'd feel it, and I'd believe it. Whatever the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. See and believe, it will
Yeah.
achieve. So I would see that. Now, I would see myself sitting talking to Johnny. Now, that meant that I'd already succeeded over there doing stand-up, because in those days, Johnny didn't let you sit with him till you did 2 or 3 appearances, and then he let you sit. And so I would see myself sitting with Johnny. Now, when I give motivation speeches to the comedians, and I've got the picture back here, I don't want to dig for it, but I say to them, I tell them that story, then I hold up that picture of Johnny Carson laughing at me. And I say, this is the picture I imaged in my mind when I was sleeping in the abandoned car and I couldn't even get on at the Comedy Store. Nothing can become a reality unless it's thought first.
Yep.
See yourself succeeding. See yourself receiving that award or that compliment from your mother or from your dad or from whatever it is. See yourself, see it, feel it, and believe it. Now the subconscious mind says, now I know where you want me to go.
Mm-hmm.
This body you have, Madison, this is your vehicle. This is your vehicle. Now, when the pilot who flies the 747 from LA to Boston every day, he doesn't drive like a maniac to the airport, drive out to the tarmac, run aboard the aircraft, take off down the runway, say, now where am I going? He files a flight plan. The subconscious mind, you file a flight plan. And the reason why you do it just before we go to sleep and just when you wake up in the morning, that's when your conscious mind is most at rest. And that means your subconscious mind is open to suggestion. That's how you're hypnotized, They put your conscious mind to sleep and they tell you hop like a rabbit, and you hop like a rabbit because your subconscious mind is open to suggestion. And it works off of images. Whatever the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. I know I'm being repetitive, but I do that in my talks too.
No, this is great.
Well, again, here's how it works. You say, what was his name? What was his name? Doggone it, what was his name? 2 days later, you're at Starbucks. Give me a cup of coffee. Tom Dreesen. Where did that come from? Once you gave the subconscious mind a problem, it won't rest till it finds a solution.
Yes.
So, and I can cite you so many things. We don't have time now, but I can cite you so many incidents where that happened for me. Whatever I saw, I believed. It became a reality. I'll try to do this real quick for you. As a little boy, shining shoes and selling newspapers on the corner. One day when I was a little boy, 8 years old, all the horns are blowing, all the townspeople were blowing horns and coming from everywhere. What's going on? And I asked one of the elders. He said, Tom, it's Boudreau Day. I said, Boudreau Day? He said, yeah, Boudreau is from Harvey, from where we're from. And he played for the Cleveland Indians. He went to the high school here. They won state championships in basketball. He went to college at University of Illinois, became a big star there, and then signed with the Cleveland Indians. And he played shortstop. And at age 24, he managed the team and played. And they won the pennant and the World Series. His name is Boudreau. And the whole town was all abuzz. This is their hometown boy. And I'm a little boy with all my newspapers, holes in my shoes. I sold all my newspapers real fast because I wanted to see this legend they were talking about from my hometown. He went down to the Elks Club, and that's where I sold newspapers on the corner. There was the Elks Club and the post office, and there was a place where I sold newspapers. 155th Street, they called it. I went down there, and he came out of the Elks Club after having lunch, and he gave a little speech. Everybody cheered. They all got in their cars, and they drove down to the high school, and where he had gone to high school, where I later went to high school. And I went home that day, and I said, wow, somebody from Harvey, Illinois is famous. Wow. And like a little boy, I began to dream, maybe one day I'll be famous. Maybe one day they'll have a parade for me in the band. And as a little boy, I envisioned that this Boudreau did that. Maybe I could do that. Now I'm going to tell you the truth. August 22nd in 1992, I went back to Harvey, Illinois, on that corner, 155th Street, where I sold newspapers. The high school band came out. They named that street Dreesen Street, Tom Dreesen Street. And the man who introduced me to the crowd was Boudreau.
Holy cow.
That is a true story. whatever the mind can see and believe. As a little boy, I didn't know that, but my mind saw that image that, wow, one day maybe they'd have a parade for me, and now that street is named Tom. And the man who introduced me to the crowd was Boudreau.
Oh my God.
That's in my book, by the way, too.
I can't wait to read this book. And the book, again, you guys, is called Still Standing, My Journey from Streets and Saloons to Stages and Sinatra, which is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
Which is amazing. So what are you visualizing now? Can you share with us? Like, what's next for you?
You mean after I met you, what am I visualizing? Or
yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, obviously now it's the book, that I'd like to see the book become a success, but I have to tell you, Madison, all my dreams have come true. I thank God every night. All my dreams have come true. The first time I went on stage with Tim Reed, we were wandering names. Didn't know I went. I had written something that got a joke that night that we scored. It was like the dark clouds open up and the sun burst through, like one of those B movies. I was on stage, something I had written got a laugh, and I went, oh, yeah. Oh, man, this is what I want. Oh, God, I found what I want. I just knew, my whole being, I want to be a stand-up comedian. It was a Friday night. I couldn't sleep that whole night. I got up the next morning, it was Saturday morning. I went down to the church where I was an altar boy when I was a little boy, where I sang in the choir. My mom sang in the choir when she was a little girl. I went to that church and I got on my hands and knees and I prayed. I said, God, I now know what I want. If you let me make my living as a stand-up comedian, I'll do charities. I was making all these promises. I now know what I want. Please, God, if I could be a stand-up comedian. And that was 50 years ago. Last September, to mark the 50th anniversary of that, I went back to that church and I gave the sermon called The Power of Prayer. And I told that congregation, I knelt right there and I asked God, if I could make my living as a comedian. I didn't say, could I be a star? I didn't want any of if I could just make a living. The thought that you could make a living as a stand-up comedian overwhelmed me, So, all my dreams have come true, so now I just want to pass on some of the information that I learned that maybe would help others along the way.
I mean, congrats on all your success and just an amazing career that's still going. And it's just such an honor that you took time out of your busy day and, especially with doing press with the book, to sit down with me and so that listeners can enjoy these stories. So I am very grateful. And it was nice to finally meet you in person because I've always heard about you. We knew who you were, but
well, I'd meet you too. And I hope maybe we'll work together someday. Who knows? That's what
I would absolutely love that. I'm putting that out in the universe. That would be,
there you go.
That would be amazing. So, okay, go ahead and where can they find you? Plug your website and your Instagram and all that stuff.
Well, Tom, by the way, my Instagram got hacked today. Somebody, I don't even, I'm not very good at the social media, but a couple of my friends said, hey, your Instagram was hacked. I don't know what they're sending out, but anyhow, but my Twitter is Tom Dreesen Comic.
Okay.
And Instagram is the same, Tom Dreesen Comic, even though it was hacked. And then my website is tomdreesen.com, that they can find out whatever they want to find out. But, and then you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy the book.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much. So you guys go check him out. Go check out the book for so many more stories that will just inspire you and make you laugh and realize that, life is really a great place and a great journey, and to find your purpose and to figure out what you really want to do in life and make it count. So with that being said, I thank you guys again for listening to another episode of Next to Madison, and we'll see you guys next time to find out who's next. Hi, your host, Madison Malloy here. I just wanted to remind you guys to please follow the show on social media at Next to Madison. And if you have any questions or suggestions for the show, or you feel that you would be a great guest on the show and would love to be considered, please feel free to email me at nexttomadison@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms. And I thank you again for listening.